Hello and welcome to GameSack. This time around we're taking a look at another underrated system, and this time it's the Nintendo GameCube.
That's right, Joe. A lot of people shun the GameCube in favor of the PlayStation 2 and even the Xbox, but the system in actuality has a lot of great exclusive titles.
It really does.
And it even has the awesome Game Boy adapter.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
It is.
Anyway, before we look at the games, we're going to take a look at the system itself. The Nintendo GameCube was launched in North America on November 18th, 2001, just 3 days after the launch of the original Xbox. The console's name was very descriptive because that's exactly what it was, a cube that played games. It also had a nifty carrying handle. On the back of the system were connections for power, analog audio and video, as well as digital audio and video, though the digital port was only ever used for video, requiring you to use both jacks simultaneously, which was definitely not cool. The console supported progressive scan and widescreen video. Nintendo eventually did away with this jack entirely on late model GameCubes. It was the first Nintendo system to use optical discs as the main method for game delivery, though they went with small discs with very low capacity, only about 1.4 gigabytes. That meant that games often had to be split up over multiple discs, or that features from multi-platform games had to be removed from the GameCube version. The standard controller looks very strange at first, offering a rather bizarre but very comfortable button layout and perhaps the best analog stick ever for any game system. The GameCube would eventually get add-ons like a modem, broadband adapter, and a Game Boy player which let you play Game Boy Advance games on your TV. The online capabilities of the system were barely touched upon, however, as Nintendo officially stated that gamers did not want to play games online. Instead, they focused on what they called connectivity, where you attached a Game Boy Advance player to the controller ports, and each player could see his or her own screen on the GBA. The system was supported until early 2007 and sold 22 million units, more than twice as much as the Sega Dreamcast. And it also should be noted that the CAV formatting of the Nintendo GameCube discs also helped load times to be pretty fast.
Joe, just what the hell is CAV? I mean, you act like everybody's just supposed to know what that means.
They don't?
No, of course not.
Well, CAV stands for Constant Angular Velocity, which means the disc always spins at the same speed no matter what position the laser's in, kind of like the old laser discs which only had a half-hour video per side. But it really helps to seek times and all that stuff.
That is very interesting. You know,
it is.
Another fun fact that I probably will never remember again.
Really?
So, do we have any games that we're going to take a look at?
Yeah, why don't you start out? What do you got for us?
I'm going to show 3 of the finest. First up is Luigis Mansion. Alright, so the GameCube launched and there was no Mario title, to the dismay of hundreds of fans.
You know, I bet if they did have a Mario title at launch, the system would probably be a lot more popular.
Sadly, we will never know. Nintendo decided that it was time for Luigi to have a chance at glory and gave us Luigi's Mansion. It's not a typical platform game that people were accustomed to with the new Nintendo system. This time around, Luigi has to save Mario, who was trapped in this mansion by the same scheme that got Luigi there. Anyways, you play Luigi's Mansion by going room to room solving riddles. You use your Game Boy Horror to search for ghosts and lock onto their beating heart.
Ghosts don't have beating hearts, Dave. If they did, they wouldn't be ghosts.
They do! Look at the Game Boy Horror, there's a beating heart right there. Here you'll get a clue of what you need to do to be able to see the ghost and suck it up with your Poltergust 3000 ghost vacuum. Once you collect some of the bigger ghosts, you will get a key which will open up new parts of the mansion to explore and repeat the process again. The controls in the game are really good once you get used to them. The music is also good for the game. It's not creepy by any means, nor are the graphics, which are way more cute than scary. Remember, this is Nintendo.
Exactly, we've got kids to think about here.
I think it's split right down the middle on people who like this game and people who don't. I, for one, do like it a lot and had a great time with this game. It was and is a game that's very unique. I'm highly anticipating the sequel that's coming out for the 3DS.
Mario?
And here is Super Smash Bros. Melee. What game system is complete without fighting games? None of them.
The CDI didn't have any fighting games, and look how impressive that thing was.
You are so right. Granted, the GameCube never saw any Street Fighter, King of Fighters, or Dead or Alive, but that doesn't mean it didn't have anything fun. Instead, it had the biggest fanboy's fantasy come true. Smash Bros. Melee pits characters from all across Nintendo's franchises against each other in a 4-player battle royale. Actually, this is the best part when you get 3 of your Nintendo fanboy friends together and you spend hours playing this game like it's just 5 minutes. Even if you're on your own, you can play this game because there's so much content that it would be very hard for you to get bored. In single player, you can play the adventure mode, which has some platforming and all-out battles like defeating a certain amount of Yoshis before you can progress. Or you can play the 4-player Melee with 3 CPU characters. The control in the game is good, and the fighting is far from deep. I mean, you have a block button, punch button, and a secondary attack button.
A block button? What is this, Mortal Kombat?
Oh god no. While it's far from difficult, it's a true button masher that's very fun. Back to fanboy stuff. This game is loaded with it. Each stage is taken from a different Nintendo franchise. The music is remixed awesomeness from Nintendo games. HAL Labs has got to be my favorite second-party developer. Everything they seem to put out is pure gold. And what would a GameCube episode be without a mention of Metroid Prime? When it was first announced as an FPS game, I had mixed feelings. Firstly, I love the Metroid series, so naturally I was very happy to hear this.
I loved Metroid, so I was very sad to hear this.
Secondly, at the time, I wasn't a fan of FPS, and I thought this would never work. How can you have a platforming puzzle-solving game as an FPS? Well, I was very pleasantly surprised by the outcome. Metroid Prime is a great game all around. Retro Studios did an amazing job with the Metroid franchise. They made it all fit together so nicely that I was immersed in the game from the first couple of minutes of play. The controls took a bit to get used to, but ended up making perfect sense. The world created in this game is very deep. The graphics are very good for the GameCube, and the music is outstanding. It's a mix of classic Metroid melodies and some atmospheric, minimalistic awesomeness. Throughout the game, you are required to scan objects to open things up and get further in the game. If I remember correctly, a lot of fans complained that this slowed the game down a lot. I myself liked it very much.
That's because of your collector mentality. Must scan everything.
Oh, and I did. I love scanning all objects possible to learn about the surroundings. Scanning fallen pirates to learn how they met their demise. Scanning bosses to figure out their weak spots. It all made for a very inclusive experience that feels very much like Metroid. Of course, Metroid Prime 2 came and was good, but not as good as the first one. A must-have for any Nintendo fan.
Yeah, but Super Metroid is still the apex of the series to this day, in my opinion.
But it's not on the GameCube. And of course you can get the Metroid Prime trilogy on the Wii, but it's not very common, so be prepared to spend some big bucks for it.
Yeah, but they did make them all control like Metroid Prime 3.
Which is actually really nice, because that was pretty good control.
Yeah.
So, alright Joe, what games have you chosen to talk about?
Well, how about I just show you?
That's a great idea.
Rogue Leader, aka Rogue Squadron 2, was a launch game for the GameCube. It covers the same time span that all 3 original movies take place in.
You also get to control a bunch of ships you really don't care about either. All I really want to control is an X-Wing and the Millennium Falcon.
I hear you on that. Many scenes from the original trilogy are here, and during those scenes you can control Luke Skywalker. There are other scenes that take place elsewhere in which you control some other Yahoo. The game is very challenging and also quite rewarding. Now, I've heard it said that this game pushes the GameCube to its limits graphically. You know, I don't know about that, but the graphics are very good.
They are good graphics. I was pretty impressed when I first played this game.
The sound is also well done with good imitations of most of the real characters, and some good fake surround thanks to Dolby Pro Logic 2. Sometimes it's hard to spot the TIE fighters that you need to destroy because they blend in with everything else and you really can't see them on the map due to all of the clutter.
A fun game, but my enthusiasm for the Star Wars universe has seriously dropped off, so I really don't care for the storyline.
Waverace Blue Storm is another launch game for the system. I loved Waverace 64 on the Nintendo 64.
Oh, you're not the only one.
It was one of my absolute favorite games for that system, and I couldn't wait for a high-powered sequel. So how'd this one turn out? Well, Nintendo handed it off to Western developers and they did a decent job. The water looks really cool and sometimes it really feels like you're smacking the waves as you speed past. The control is pretty tough and I don't think it controls anywhere near as well as Waverace 64, but it's still quite manageable for the most part.
I also found the controls a little lacking. The N64 game controlled so nicely.
It really did. The music is good in a few spots, but overall it's nothing that'll blow you away. One thing Waverace 64 had was an announcer who was extremely happy.
That's a rad record! Don't sweat it! Montage!
The announcer here in Blue Storm seems a little less thrilled to be here.
Turbo is wasted on you. You have betrayed what little trust I put in you. That what a good at Turbo would do. Were you born a loser, or did it take practice? Ooh, a Turbo!
Plus, the character choices here are also lacking. I never found any of them interesting. I hate when game companies try to give a polygon character tood. It just doesn't work.
You got a Turbo. That's right. That's it.
FZero GX is one amazing racing game. Nintendo knew that they could never make the game as awesome as it needed to be, so they handed it to the only ones who could, Sega. That's right, only Sega had the skill to make a proper Nintendo game.
Oh, jeez. I have mixed feelings about this statement, Joe. I think Nintendo could have made it very good, but I have to give credit to Sega. They did an excellent job here.
Presented in widescreen, this game is frustratingly intense. That's right, I said frustrating. This game is absolutely punishing to all but the most dedicated players.
Yeah, frustrating is a good word. It's super hard to win races on upper levels, even when you feel you've had a perfect race.
Judging by the graphics, this game takes place a few years in the future, and in the future, games always run at 60 frames per second. Sega knew how to use the Gamecube hardware better than Nintendo did. In fact, Nintendo never made a 16:9 widescreen game for the system ever. They were weak. The music is great as well, though sometimes it seems a bit racist. For example, the music in the Lightning stage constantly insults Italians by repeatedly saying "Dago walk." Hey Dave, aren't you Italian?
I'm half Italian. My parents crossbred and I'm a mutt.
Oh, so it's only half offensive to you then. But despite its difficulty, this game is amazingly fun and addictive and worthy of the F-Zero name.
Isn't this game slightly different from the arcade game FZero AX?
Well, yeah, there's a few different tracks here and there. Too bad I didn't have my GameCube memory card with me when I saw it in the arcade. Super Monkey Ball was yet another awesome launch title for the GameCube. In fact, it was made by the same development team who would later make FZero GX. And I've got to say, this game right here is one of my favorite games of all time. The goal is simple. You have a monkey trapped inside of a transparent ball and your mission is to tilt the floor in order to get the monkey to the goal before the timer reaches 0. That's it. There are tons of stages in here to play and master, and thanks to the GameCube's awesome analog controller, the controls simply could not be better. You can kinda get this game if you buy Super Monkey Ball Deluxe for the PS2 or Xbox, but the control simply isn't as good because there are dead spots in the analog that kill you. Despite the simple gameplay, things can get a bit challenging here and there. For example, level 7 here on the expert mode is definitely the hardest stage in the entire game, but otherwise the game is pretty easy for me.
I like the fact that the developers put in easier routes in some of the stages so novices can have fun and make it to the goal also.
Yeah, you can often take shortcuts to warp to higher levels more quickly, but you don't want to do that because then you'd miss out on some of the Super Monkey Ball goodness. The graphics are pretty good and they get the job done, and the music is generally pretty catchy as well. It even has party games which are fun, like Monkey Racing and, of course, my favorite, Monkey Target. But actually, I've got to say, Dave is the pro at Monkey Target.
Hey, thanks, Joe. I hate to admit it, but I like Monkey Target even better than the main game.
That's because you happen to be as good at Monkey Target as I am with the main game, wouldn't you agree?
Ha, yeah, you are right.
Anyway, this is a game I come back to often, and I always make sure to beat it completely whenever I play. Absolutely no other Monkey Ball game ever made can live up to the greatness of this one. But Sega did try with Super Monkey Ball 2. This time it's in widescreen and progressive scan, and it looks great. This is the second best Monkey Ball game ever made. Unfortunately, they put in gimmicks that bring the game down, like toggle switches that you have to pay attention to. Now it's no longer a simple matter of just getting to the goal. You've got to operate moving parts of certain stages with the switches. Still, it's really fun with even more stages, and the music is great. There are even more party games here, and Monkey Target 2 is still pretty awesome.
Oh, man, it's good, but Monkey Target in this game suffered. They changed up the formula enough to make it too easy. They took out the skill shot of the small platform and made it easy to get power-ups. It's still enjoyable, and the music in this version is actually very incredible, but it can't beat the first Monkey Target.
Suffice it to say, I'm good at both of these Super Monkey Ball games, so here's some examples of the fun I've had with these two games.
You know, Joe, despite not having a Mario game at release, the GameCube launch lineup was pretty impressive.
It was, it's basically the opposite of the N64's launch lineup, which consisted of Mario 64 and what? Pilot Wings?
Yeah, Pilot Wings.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, there's a lot more GameCube exclusive games that we'd like to show you, and we're going to do it via a montage.
Ooh. And there you go. Tons of GameCube games you should probably check out.
That's right, and I feel bad because my memory card was corrupted and I couldn't show a lot of the later levels in those games in the montage that I wanted to.
Yeah, you're pathetic, Dave. But remember, you can also play GameCube games on your Wii system, as it is backwards compatible.
That's true, but remember, in 2011, Nintendo took out the Wii, GameCube compatibility on the Wii, so if your Wii has GameCube controller slots and memory card ports, you can play GameCube games on it.
Yes, but if your Wii doesn't have stuff like that and you can't play GameCube games on it, you could probably find a real GameCube system for cheap, since most Wiis are backwards compatible, so you might as well even use a real GameCube system. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Hey Dave, let's see what the GameCube looks like upstairs on my new big screen. Can you bring it up?
Oh yeah. All right, I'll grab it.
No, not like that. What are you doing?
What's wrong? Dude, this is my third GameCube. I know what I'm doing here.
No, not like that. What are you doing? You're supposed to pick it up by the handle. See? It's a handle.
Handle? That's not a handle.
Yeah, didn't you see the opening segment of the show? We just talked about this.
I missed it. I thought that was to put your cords through it, so it's not a handle.
You're an idiot. Jeez.
Well, I guess it makes sense.
Clearly.
No wonder I have 3 broken games. I was carrying them right here.
Come on.
That's awesome. A handle.